In Lesson 1.1, we will be discussing what investing is and why people invest. We will be discussing the two groups of people involved in the practice and the difference between real and financial assets. Essentially, the financial system includes two groups. On the one hand, you have investors, who are people who have an excess of money that they do not need for their everyday expenses, and they're looking for a place to put that money. On the other hand, you have people who are in need of funds, who have a deficit of capital. Corporations and governments fit into this category. Corporations or businesses need the money that they raise through the financial system in order to run their business, to grow their business. Governments, in much the same way, require the funds for infrastructure and for services and programs. When we talk about assets, we can talk about them as being either real or financial in nature. In the textbook, they give you 3 tests to apply to determine whether an asset is a real or a financial asset. On the slide, I've indicated them as real or financial investments. I'm going to talk about each of the 3 tests, and then I'm going to use an example of a real and a financial investment to apply the test to show you how to determine whether an asset is indeed real or financial. The first test that they provide for you is to ask yourself whether the asset contributes directly or indirectly to the productive capacity of the economy. The second test is to ask whether the asset appears on both sides of the balance sheet or only on one side of the balance sheet. And the third test is to ask yourself whether the asset is created and destroyed in the normal course of daily business, or whether in order to destroy it you would have to have an accident or the asset would have to wear out over time. The examples that I'm going to use to describe to you a real and financial asset and the application of the tests is a stock as a financial asset and a piece of equipment as a real asset. So let's apply the test to these two assets. In the first question, we ask whether the asset contributes directly or indirectly to the productive capacity of the economy. If we look at the piece of machinery, this piece of machinery is used to produce a good. That good is then sold to the public for money. In this way, the machinery is contributing directly to the productive capacity of the economy. If we look at the stock is sold to raise money. That money is then used to purchase the piece of machinery. In this way, the stock contributes indirectly to the productive capacity of the economy. Now if we look at the balance sheet, the most important thing to realize here in the application of the second test is that we're not talking about only one balance sheet. When we talk about a financial investment showing up on both sides of the balance sheet, it's actually showing up on 2 different balance sheets. If we look at the stock is an asset to the person who holds it, but it shows up on the liability and shareholders' equity side of the balance sheet of the company that has issued the stock. With regard to the real investment, the piece of machinery, it's only an asset to the person who has purchased it or who owns it. It's not a liability to anyone else. With the third test, we're looking at whether the asset can be created and destroyed in the normal course of business or whether it's worn out over time or by accident. If we're looking at a piece of machinery, the only way for that piece of machinery to be destroyed is either by fire, by accident, or by wearing out over time. The stock, however, can be created when the company decides to issue the stock. If the company decided to purchase the stock off the market and keep it off the market, they could then destroy that stock. In this way, we've applied the 3 tests, and it's obvious that the stock is the financial investment and the piece of machinery is the real investment.